Hello, dear friends. It's Molly from Soul School Spiritual Guidance and Healing. Thank you so much for being here with me today in the jungle. I've got some cards on the table and some channel messages for you guys. I'm on schedule. I'm actually filming this early, so I'm so proud of me making a little schedule for myself and then kind of sort of sticking to it. So high five self. Thank you guys so much for being here with me. I do want to let you know before I get into the flow state that if you guys want to book a personal reading, all the information that you need will be in the description box below, along with any relevant links to information that I bring up during this reading. I want to be able to point you guys elsewhere. Don't just take my word for it. So I'm going to point you to some of my sources when I can. On the reading that I posted Monday, I mentioned Foucault's Docile Bodies, and I forgot that link, so I'm going to go back and put that in there. If you guys are finding this, if you're watching this now, the link to Docile Bodies, the work that I referred to in Monday's reading, is going to be in the link in the description box at this time. All right? What else? Sorry, I'm talking to my guides. I feel like there was another reminder that I wanted to go ahead and slip in. Oh, there's a bonus reading. Before I packed up the cards and put them away on Monday, a bonus reading came out. It was a story that wanted to be told. And I didn't know. I was like, maybe I'll save that post on Wednesday in case I don't get around to the actual reading. But here I am. This is your Wednesday reading. Bonus Monday reading will be available for you guys as well. I am so grateful for the tools that I have learned to bring myself into the here and now. I've been thinking a lot lately, you guys, about the tools that I have learned and how I can begin to really share those with others. I love doing what I do with the readings. I wish I did personal readings a lot more, so book with me, you guys, all right? Let's do flexible pricing. If you can't afford what I've got on my website, contact me and we'll work something out, okay? I love the personal readings. I love the collective readings, but I've known for a long time that this is not meant to be my full-time work, right? I've tried to make it my full-time work, but I haven't been doing even the part-time work. I know that there's something else for me. Part of my shadow work has been coming to the realization that just hiding away from the world and doing my work in that way is not the answer, okay? Because one of the messages that I've been getting is a lot of us have been, I don't want to say driven into solitude, but we've been invited into solitude to be able to go through our individual awakening process. But the next step is very much about people coming together and sharing the tools that they have learned while they were in that hermit mode, right? So I've been thinking a lot about the different ways in which, besides, I need to work with people. I need, as much as I want to hide away from people, in large groups, because that's a lot of energy, a lot of very unconscious energy that it's difficult for me to be around. The people who are on the path, the seekers, these are my people, right? And I need that connection in person, okay? So I'm working on a lot of different ideas. How can I bring people together? What specific tools and skills do I have that I can share with others, right? So this has been a lot of the thought process that I've been going through. Yesterday, I found a work. I discovered, I acquired, and I consumed an entire book that was channeled from the She, okay? Sidhe. I use the term Fae in prior videos, but now that I'm in contact with this, really in contact with this group of beings, the word she is just, they prefer that term. So I'm going to use that, okay? But we are talking about the same energies, the same intraterrestrials that I channeled, that I have been channeling over the last couple of weeks. All right. So I did a reading a little while ago. I did a reading a couple months ago about connecting with nature spirits, and I didn't realize that was really the beginning of this collaboration with the She. So now that this is in place, okay, all the messages that I had previously channeled about the Tuatha De Danann and about their galactic knowledge that they brought to this planet, right? All of that stuff is just one long channeled message, all right? So in my establishing this relationship with the she, I came across this book that confirmed to me all of the skills that I had identified that I've acquired that I want to begin to teach to other people. Like, I'm talking about the ideas that I was having was like, all right, I want to teach people about dream work. I want to teach people about integration of the self. I want to teach people about integration of their relationships, just better human relationships, reframing the way that we have been taught to conceptualize and handle ourselves within relationships with other human beings. Then lately, it's been this third thread coming in of wanting to reconnect people to the earth, because that's a huge movement that's going on right now. And we're breaking a lot of ancestral, generational limitations. I don't want to call them curses. I don't want to call them karma. Let's call them cycles, where people were separated from the earth, right? So we were sold this like modern vision of living that separates humanity from the earth. It actually creates this. I used to be an intellectual historian, and so I watched this happen over the development of human history, this ideology emerge in which mankind is separate from nature. So there's the three types of integration in the self, integration of ourselves with others, and then integration within nature. Okay, so these three things, and then the dream work is real big. Dream work, astral travel, expanding consciousness, expanding the places that you can go to in your mind, right? I found this book, and I believe it's just called The She. It's got a subtitle that I'll drop below. It's by this guy named John Matthews. And he's written a lot about Arthurian legend, which is very much tied in with the Tuatha De Danann, okay? And other Celtic and Irish mythologies. And this symbol, this spiral symbol, if you guys look up John Matthews or just look up the she symbol, the she spiral, remember SIDHE, that symbol just like hypnotized me. If you see it, you'll know what I mean. You'll know what I mean. If you respond to that symbol in the same way, I think that you're one of the many people who is in alignment to work with the she at this time, all right? But nonetheless, he was invited by a colleague to come see this glyph, this spiral glyph that they found at an ancient site in Ireland. This was back in like the 90s. And this glyph essentially starts talking to him. And so he was like, I'm really skeptical about channeled literature, but I'm just going to go ahead and channel this and see what happens. The message that this representative of the she brought forth, and by the way, the she, I think they're fifth density. They might be fourth, but I really think they're fifth density. They exist in a parallel dimension that overlaps with our own here on this earth. That's how we can come into contact with them. And by the way, you guys, I'm so sorry. There is a little bit of construction in the background right now, so I hope that's not too much of a distraction. But nonetheless, they experience life very differently than we do, right? And part of one of the differences of the way in which their consciousness exists, especially when we're channeling entities, understand that it's not always like a one-on-one channel. I'm the one person channeling the information. It's not like there's just one being that's got the mic. It's a collective that is coming through a singular voice, all right? So that's who John Matthews channeled, a representative from the she, who at one point in time explains that you're really hearing from a bunch of us right now. And the messages that the she had were, hey, you guys, humanity is really heading in this negative direction, and we want to remind you of the potential of your true connection with the rest of the world, the rest of creation. But it's not new information. It's about recovering ancient wisdom, right? Yeah. But all of the steps, all the activities that this guide from the she laid out, all of the things have been coming up in my brainstorming about what are the skills that I have that I can teach to people. Because part of me was like, why are these even useful? The she comes in and delivers this just like it's all one package. So this is how guides work, you guys. They put us on a path. And then later we're like, oh, this is the path that makes sense. Why these other things unfolded, why this other information came before me, because I was meant to pick it up and carry it down the path with me. So anyways, that's a lot of just kind of personal stuff, but you guys know how that goes. I used to be a historian, right? So when I'd read something, I had to read it critically. I had to say, is this supported by other evidence? Is this something that feels like it's good logic, good historianship, good writing? Okay? So I have that built into me. When I read something, I don't just automatically say, oh, I believe this. But what's happened now is I've allowed my intuition to be evidence. So sometimes, and I think you guys experience this too, sometimes something comes into your consciousness like a text or a piece of work or, somebody's experience that they had, and you read it and it just resonates in your soul and you know that it's true. That's really cool. That's really cool that can happen like that. But nonetheless, my reading today was meant to connect with the she and see if there's some sort of message that I can deliver on their behalf. Now, something that I'm very conscious of in this moment is that this writing was done, like I said before, back in the 90s. What else did we have back in the 90s? Voices of the Confederation was in the 70s. I just recently came across something else that was written in the 90s. And it'll come back to me if it's relevant. But this is a time period, Millennium. Lisa Royal Holt's work, Millennium. By the way, a lot of the stuff that I read in this channeling of the she really corroborated, is that the word I want? The kind of channeled information that Lisa Royal Holt has put out. Okay, I talk about her a lot. I'm a big fan. Where were our thoughts? There was a sense of urgency back in the 90s, right? And there were also these references to times to come. One of the things that's mentioned, one of the messages that comes through the she is that the time in which they're going to be visible to humanity is coming. This was like 25 years ago. So we're beginning to see, I believe, in our time, a lot of the prophecies that were set forth in the 70s, 80s, and 90s coming to fruition. Okay? When I tap into the she right now, I feel an even greater sense of urgency. And I want to connect this, pardon my itchy nose. I want to connect this to what's going on in the scientific community right now. These NASA scientists coming out talking about climate change. And I have to tell you guys, I was a little skeptical when I first saw these clips of the scientists who had chained themselves to the door. And we're like, we're serious, you guys. We're not joking about the fact that we're destroying the planet. This is reaching critical mass. And I first saw that, I didn't trust it because it felt to me otherworldly. I'm being serious, dead serious. Something about those men seemed out of time. They seemed they seemed to me like they did not come from the fabric of this universe. And now that I've had some perspective on that, I think I'm right, but I don't think it's something that is devious or evil. Okay? I think that the she are crying out, you guys really need to get your shit together, humanity. And we know it. You and I know it. We're not the ones that need to get the shit together, right? But there is something that each of us can do. One of the, we'll just do this first. Okay. So this is the message that's coming through today from the she. All right. It's this heartbreak. And I only know I shuffled and I shuffled and I shuffled this deck, and this Three of Swords just kept coming up. And I always see, like, you know, we've got these men doing the rain dance in this circle, right? And you see the water coming down. A lot of this has a lot to do with the water on the planet. Absolutely it does. I also do want to say the manipulation of the environment, the creation of rain in unnatural ways. It's like humanity. Oh gosh, my nose is so itchy, you guys. The she are coming to me through the right inside my nose right there. Can you guys settle down? We've all got it subconsciously implanted in us that we are somehow separate from nature, right? And the powers that be very much operate under that ideology, right? Well, I can fuck with the rain if I want to. I can make rain, I can make floods, I can make whatever. Let's just do it. Because they don't understand the intricacies and the interconnectedness of everything on the planet. Okay? This manipulation of energy, this manipulation of weather, yes, it has a negative impact on our dimension, on our planet, but it also somehow, they're making me feel this really intense barometric pressure. It really affects the other worlds on this planet as well. Okay, it really, really, really affects the other worlds on this planet as well. Water is the life source of this blood. There's also a really interesting fact that uranium, which occurs naturally in really trace amounts all over the planet. This is just a channel message from the she, was that uranium was essentially a mineral whose function on this earth is to help the earth maintain a healthy temperature. So what happens when we dig that up out of the ground and we use it to make these nuclear bombs? Oh, you guys, I read that and I just felt it in my heart. I felt it in my heart. How can we take this really important piece of the Earth's body and use it against her? I know you didn't make a nuclear bomb and I didn't make a nuclear bomb, right? But there is a lot of insinuation that there's a collective karma about this. Okay? That we have, not that like we have blood on our hands, but we have an opportunity. Hi baby, I love you, but can we cuddle later? To begin to heal the relationship between mankind and the earth. Okay? But what's happening, and I think a lot of you guys know, that the devastation, destruction of the environment has escalated a lot. And especially in light of the pandemic, because, you know, it's like the pandemic took the public eye away from a lot of places. There's a lot more doors closed, and so a lot more can be done behind closed doors. Does that make sense to you guys? But it also has to do with our media. The broken flow of information around the world. Okay? It's not being reported to us. What's happening in Hawaii, what's happening in Costa Rica right now, what's happening all over, what's happening in the Amazon. Okay? It's happening all over. People, earth, animals, all being exploited in this way that what's really, really, really unhealthy about it, because as the she point out, Earth gonna be here. Earth was here long before us. And we could fuck it all up and Earth would still be here. She's not going anywhere. But it's almost like we're reaching a critical point where there could be some sort of purge, right? And I'm not here to scare. I'm not here to scare, right? There are real physical, environmental effects of this trend. But when we feel like we can't do anything about that, what's really happening in the world with the environment, what we can do is turn our attention towards the thoughts of the planet, towards the heart of the planet, and we can connect to that and we can begin to influence it. And it can make a big difference. Okay? Because that's what's going on here is just this, the she, I feel like they're showing me like this is a portal. And they're showing me what it looks like on their side of the other world. Very interesting. I also notice, in these cards, there's always just like a lot of black and white that's kind of superimposed with the color, the really bright colors of the collage work. And, God, that makes so much sense. So in this book, The She, the representative of the she says, when we see trees in the human world, they look just like trees in our world, but just like less alive, less vibrant, less animated almost. And it's not that they don't have the same potential energy, but it's that in not being seen for the spirit that they possess, that spirit becomes dimmer. Just the way anytime you've tried to shine your light and you feel like it wasn't seen or it wasn't well received or it was even exploited or abused, it makes you want to make yourself smaller. We can begin to bring trees back to life just by honoring them. And it's not just about trees, it's about the entire, all of creation, all of nature. Rocks don't even carry the same amount of energy here. Unless we got people that are like, look at my cool rock. This rock has meaning, this has significance, this rock has healing powers. That's a healthy relationship to have with rocks. Okay? All right, let's get back to the cards. So here's a little heart to heart. It's like your heart connects to, it's like what I feel right now is that my heart is connecting to this sort of representative of the she, and he's like pulled me into his heart portal to be able to take a peek at what it looks like on the other side. All right, there, and this is like that snap. It's just, this is something that's reaching critical mass. So I feel like this is the representative of the she, and this is us. And they're like, look, we can walk together. We've been living in separation for so long, but I feel like we can walk together. And in fact, that's why there's a little bit of a panic amongst the she. There are those amongst the she that just are kind of like, let humanity die. Look at them. Like, they're the one who messed this place up. Let them go down with their ship. And then there are other she that say, no, you guys, we're going to walk hand in hand through this land. Okay? But they know that the time has come. That's the next card that's here, is this Wheel of Fortune. That the veil is going to be lifted. The veil between our world and their world is going to be lifted. They know this. Just the same way that a lot of the extraterrestrials know that those contacts are going to begin, like that veil is going to be lifted as well. So it's like they're doing the behind the scene work to have their contacts in our realm. So that when that veil has been lifted and here we are all coexisting on the planet together, there are some emissaries, right? Some mediators between our people and their people. Okay? So that's the bonds that they're trying to form. Because it's like, I don't know how else to say this. It has a lot to do with the age of Aquarius, okay? And I feel like, okay, it's like It's a 26,000 year cycle, the whole thing is, right? To go through all of the ages of the zodiac, and we do it backwards, and I don't know what that means. But it's the precession of the equinoxes. And it's almost like the age of Taurus, the age of Scorpio, the age of Leo, the age of Aquarius. These are the fixed ages. These are, like, there's a special destiny that belongs to these ages. But this is almost like the portal between our world and the other world opening up. Like, that's inevitable. And this was the one. This was the deck that was going to guide us in what can we do. They can offer us amazing energetic protection. But they're also asking us to protect them, essentially. To be their advocates if it ever came down to it. Choice and expression. Okay. I understand. That's very interesting. This makes me feel like that there is a choice point for the she, because in this particular channeled work, they talk about the history of, they're like, we were living on this planet for a long time, and then people showed up, and we were like, okay, they're kind of different from us, but they lived in balance, and so it was okay. It was when the balance was lost, when people started acting, pardon me, like they could own the land, and that they, like, killing more animals than they needed, which the she don't do. They don't eat meat, which makes sense. While I've been primed for my work with the she, that has been eliminated from my diet. It was just something I felt like, just vibrationally, it vibrated out of my life, eating meat. Where were we, darlings? Let's get back to it. They essentially were forced to go underground. And he explains that, like, yeah, at first it was kind of like, all right, let's just retreat to the woods. Let's just retreat to the lakes. But it came to a point where it was vibrationally impossible to live in the same realm. And that's how they became a part of this other world that overlaps our own physical world. And that many of them have the choice. They know, oh my gosh, just like our choice, we now have available the choice to openly interact with them. They now have openly available to them the choice to interact with us. And a lot of them, it feels like these are the places that they've retreated to. And they're kind of like, do we come back out or do we not come back out? Because they would love more than anything else to live in this world. Part of it is they want to do it for the trees and the animals, right? But also they want to heal what used to be an ancient relationship between their people and our people. They want, okay, this is a couple things. Just to be able to express themselves in this world. They would love that. But what they can do in the meantime is express themselves to each of us in meditation. Okay. See this veil? Do you see this? The veil. This is a human, right? And this is the veil. The veil is falling. And these butterflies kind of represent, it's like that collective consciousness that can come through, that can be channeled. Okay? So that confirms a lot of what I've said elsewhere. Sometimes I don't know what I've brought up here and what I brought up over on TikTok, but on TikTok I talk about the passages in Voices of the Confederation that specifically talk about, like, why don't they just come land on our planet? And why the way in which other worlds are trying to contact us right now is in meditation, when we are in our own state of meditation. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up with the first two cards that came out, which are very, very beautiful. These are from the Angels and Ancestors. By the way, these other two decks, I had the Vintage Wisdom Oracle, had not come out in a while. And then the Alchemical Visions Tarot, if you guys are interested in the decks that I used today. But this animal garden and this guardian and this drum point directly to a piece of evidence that was given by, not evidence, of advice that was given by this she. That one of the best ways that you can come into contact with them in meditation, in dream journeying, because that's what they really want to understand. A lot of the contact that happens between us, this place where we walk together, this is the dream state. Some of you guys can visit them, and some of them are going to come visit you here, okay? You'll know. You'll know. So you guys, in your dream state, you're in the other world. But there was a lot of talk about meeting in the in-between worlds, and that's where the good stuff happens, okay? All right? Meeting in the in-between worlds, between our dimension and others. And that's where a lot of good stuff happens in the dream state. It's in the in-between. Anyways, what he's saying is that each of us has an animal guide. And that really all we have to do is call upon our animal guide in meditation and then just trust the first image that comes through. I don't know why, like for me, I had a hard time with that. I felt like, oh, well, there are certain animals that I identify with, and therefore that's who I want to be my guides. But then there was also, like, when I did the meditation and I got a jaguar, I'm like, who am I to have a jaguar? Why do I have a jaguar? You just have to trust and believe in your imagination. And that's one of the things that I've been meditating on. How can I teach people to reclaim their imagination? Because for so long I worked for the public school system, and I see now that the function of that institution is to minimize the imagination. So they talk about going into meditation, allowing yourself to believe whatever images come to you, learning to trust your imagination, because it sits right there in your third eye. Intuition and imagination are like two facets of the same ability. Okay? But you go there, allow your guardian animal to come to you, trust it, and let it take you on a journey. Okay? It's going to be different for all of you. But that's the advice that's coming through right now. Okay? And upon that, I just feel this great, like sometimes there's this point where I get a little hug and then my guides go away. And that's what I feel just happened. Thanks. Thank you, guides. All right. Thank you guys for being here with me today. And I hope you have an amazing day. Take care.